Everything that we've done up till now has been task orientated, but now we're to the point where we actually need to set up our resources, and this is step 12 in our 18 steps. Resources are people, equipment, or material that you employ and assign to various tasks, and typically they would cost you something. Resources can be set up in two places. They can be set up in this Gantt file, or they can be set up in a separate file called a resource pool. If I was to put the resources in this particular file, I would simply switch to a different view. I would change from the Gantt chart view to the resource sheet, and in here I would list all the resources I had available. But if I want to create a separate file of resources that I can share across my projects, I'm going to go for that option. So I'm going to change this view back to a Gantt chart, and I'm going to save this file. I now want to create a new file based on my template, because then it'll have the project calendar set up with my working days and working times and public holidays. So I want to create a new file by going to File, Open, and opening up my standard maintenance contract. This is the template we made earlier. I'll open up this particular file, I'll switch to the View Resource Sheet, and I'll save this file as a resource pool. So I'll click the Save As button I added to my Quick Access toolbar, and I'm saving it as a project file called Resource Pool, and I'll put it on the desktop and save. In this particular file and in the resource name column, you simply list all the resources available. So I have a builder, for example, and the type of resource that a builder is work. And the builder actually costs me in terms of a salary. So 60,000 per Y is how you enter a salary. And I just press enter. And I'll just widen that column. And you can see that the builder is on 60,000 per year. Now in the column prior is the maximum units. And the maximum units I have in terms of a builder is I only have one builder. So I'm going to leave that on 1. But underneath the builder, so I'm just going to drag this thin black cross down to repeat the word builder, and then using my entry bar, I'm just going to add apprentice. When it comes to a builder's apprentice, and I'll just widen the column and fix the row height, I actually have 2 of them. So I'm going to change their units to 2, and they're on an hourly rate, $25 an hour. So I just enter 25. To the right of that though, they do earn overtime, which is 27. And I just enter that, and it defaults to per hour. Under the Builder's Apprentice, I actually have an electrician. In fact, I have 2 electricians, so I'll go over to the units and I'll put 2 of them, and they're on 30 an hour. And so you just continue to list the trade or the person. It's completely up to you, how many you've got, and what they cost you in terms of a salary or an hourly rate. Now when it comes to the material handler crane, which is not actually a person, it's a piece of equipment, it's still work because it still costs me in terms of just the resource, but it costs me each time I use it. So instead of a standard rate or an overtime rate, it costs me $1,000 every time I employ it. So that's what that sort of column's for. Now under that, I also have some materials. So I'm going to put concrete, and I'm going to change work to material. And this costs me per cubic metre, so I'll put M3 as the label, the material label. And it costs me per cubic metre 85. Underneath concrete, I'm going to add plasterboard, which is also a material, which costs me per square metre, and that's going to cost me $20 per square metre. So you can enter work at a salary, at a standard rate or an overtime rate. You can enter each time you use it, it's just a straight cost. And you can also enter material that costs you per litre, per kilogram, per square metre or per cubic metre, those types of things. Having entered all the units and having entered all the standard rates and all my resources, I could also adjust the initials if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave them as the defaults. I now need to look at perhaps the calendars. What you see here is a column called base, and each resource that you add, with the exception of material, each resource that you add to the resource sheet automatically acquires their own copy of the standard calendar, which means that you can therefore change their copy of the calendar. So I might decide the builder, for example. If I double click the builder, I can go into change working time, and I can change in work weeks the details regarding what hours he or she works. At the moment it assumes, like the project calendar, that they work Monday to Saturday 7 till 12 and 1 till 5. If I decided that on a Saturday that particular person finished at 12, I'd click on Saturday, set days to specific times, and I'd probably delete 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. So you can actually edit the calendar that's given to each builder, or sorry, to each resource, which is a copy of the standard project calendar. And OK, and OK, and OK. Or you could create a particular calendar that you assigned to resources. This would be the sort of situation where you might have a night shift and then a day shift group. And so you would assign the night shift calendar to some resources and the day shift calendar to other resources. If you were going to do this, for example, I would go to change working time and I would create a new calendar. And this is for the calendar for the builder. So let's cancel that. Let's just say we're going to go to the apprentice. And let's go change working time and create new calendar. I'll make a copy of the standard calendar and I'll call it night shift. So I'm just demonstrating. And I'll choose OK. Oh, and that one's already been used. So let's say night staff and OK. It's from here that you would then proceed, as we've done in the past, to set up the work days and the work hours. So you would go into details and you would set what you wanted in terms of the hours that they worked on the days that they worked. It's in here that you would also add any exceptions or delete any exceptions. So you would simply create the details in terms of working days and nights and hours and exceptions with regards to that calendar, and OK. Once you created that calendar, you could then hit this drop down and simply apply that calendar to a number of different staff or resources. But I'll go back and apply the standard calendar to all the resources. So you've got the project calendar, which we set right at the beginning of the course, and we set the working days and the working hours and the public holidays. Then every resource that you add to the resource sheet view acquires a copy of that standard project calendar. You can then modify, like we did with the builder, that particular person's copy of the standard calendar. But if you found that you were modifying a number of resources in the same way, because they're either, for example, day shift or night shift, you could create a base calendar and you could assign that calendar to certain resources. And that's how you manage resource calendars. Now, in addition to resources having their own calendars, they can also have rates above and beyond these standard and overtime rates. For example, if I double click the Builder's Apprentice and I went to costs at the top here, you can make it that the Builder's Apprentice has a number of rate changes effective over time. So I might decide as of the 1st of the 12th, the 1st of December this year, that this particular apprentice was going to go for a 5% increase. And if I type 5%, it'll just work it out. So then as soon as I assign that particular resource to a task that occurs on or after the 1st of December 2017, it will cost me $26.25 an hour and no longer $25. If it's not a percentage, I can just make a straight entry and say it will cost $27 and it will cost $30 overtime. So you can make it that over time keep adding rows into this screen, that over time they have changes in their rate. They can also have a number of cost rate types, cost rate tables. This is their A rate, but they could be charged out at a B rate, a C rate, a D rate, or an E rate. One resource can have up to 5 cost rates, and one resource can have many cost rate changes over time. So it can get quite involved in terms of costs associated with resources.